It's another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of our live Saturday broadcast from InWheelTime.com. Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild-to-wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com. You're on the award-winning In Wheel Time Car Talk Show, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin is right off camera. I'm Don Armstrong. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for our live broadcast, or if you're listening on a podcast, we thank you for tuning in. By the way, our live broadcast is on Saturdays from 9:30 a.m. until 12 noon. Just wanted to throw that in. All right, well, we've got a great guest. We tried to get him on last week, had a little technical difficulty on our end. But on his end, he's all about Seth Angel, Houston Raceway Park, and NHRA Spring Nationals. What spring? Wait a minute, this is fall. What a jacked up year this has been.
Yeah, well, we're just excited that we're going to be able to go racing here in a couple weeks in Houston.
Amen.
A really wild year for everyone. And so I think over the next couple of weeks, and certainly the weekend of the 23rd through the 25th, we'll have some normalcy and we'll see some NHRA Camping World, NHRA Championship drag racing.
Yeah, Camping World. How about that mess with Coca-Cola saying goodbye? And, man, they didn't waste any time getting Camping World on board, did they?
No, and I think it's just a testament to the strength of the NHRA and the brand and the product, and to certainly everyone, I think, was disappointed to see Coca-Cola step away in the manner that they did, but then to follow that up literally within a matter of less than a week's time with another partner in Camping World just shows you how strong the product is at NHRA, and obviously we look forward to delivering some really high-powered championship drag racing to the folks at Camping World and Marcus Lemonis, and we'll be ready.
And Camping World's done a real good job in its past with other motorsports series, so they're going to do nothing but really boost up what NHRA is doing as they finish out this year and move into next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They're no stranger to motorsports, and we're just excited to welcome them on board and can't wait to show them how we do things in Houston at Houston Raceway Park. And we're ready for them.
Well, you do such a good job out there, Seth, and I wanted to tell everybody that Seth and I talked, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's invited us to come back out there and do our broadcast from there, and we're really looking forward to that. But
Thank you.
It's going to be a little bit different this year than it has in the past. First of all, the racing itself is different. Sportsman on Friday, but sportsman only on Friday, and then 2 rounds of qualifying for the pros on Saturday, and then eliminations on Sunday. Very different.
No, it is. It's going to look different. It's going to feel a little bit different. As you mentioned, professional qualifying takes place on Saturday. 2 rounds, as you mentioned, with racing on Sunday. So every round is important, more so now than ever. But, the great thing is, especially for our fans, is that there's going to be, racing action throughout the entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there's a lot to do, a lot to see. And, just looking before we jumped on, I was looking at the extended forecast, and I think we're going to see some really spectacular on-track performance throughout the weekend. Conditions are looking, this cool weather really makes these cars produce unbelievable amount of horsepower. And so I think we'll see that translate into some incredible time slips on the scoreboard.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. So, Seth, how are you dealing with the COVID thing out there in a public event like this? How does that work? I mean, it's got to be a total pain for you to be able to comply with social distancing, hand sanitizer, all that. I know you got it covered, but how have you been dealing with that, and how have you been preparing the track for that?
Yeah, well, from the very start of the pandemic and as things were kind of unfolding and the reality of the situation was becoming very clear, we were very aggressive early on in communicating and contacting our local and state officials on what we could do, what we couldn't do. And so we're very fortunate in the fact that we live in this great state of Texas, and we've got an incredible governor in Governor Greg Abbott and his understanding that businesses need to be open, but we've got to do it in the right way. And so at Houston Raceway Park, we'll be opening at 50% of our normal capacity. And as a result, there's going to be some different protocols in place for our fans. We're going to ask that they wear masks when they enter the facility and when they're inside any of the common areas. But when they get to their seat in the grandstand or they're with their group that they arrived with, we're not going to force the mask upon the fans when they're in their seats watching the racing. But when you do leave the grandstand and you're walking around in the Nitro Alley and the pits, we're going to ask that you wear a face mask. We'll have plenty of hand sanitizer, as you mentioned, and that as best as we possibly can. We do realize we are outdoors, and so that is good. The good news in the fact that look, we're going to ask that you be respectful of the people around you and maintain social distancing as best you can. But at the end of the day, we want the experience to be enjoyable, and we think we've got a nice set of protocols that will allow for our fans to be able to come out and watch championship drag racing, follow these protocols, because it's quite simple. If we don't do these things, then we won't be racing, and we wouldn't be allowed to have fans. So it is going to be different. It's going to feel different, as I said. But the alternative is we wouldn't be able to run the race.
Well, you did mention Nitro Alley, and for those people that have never actually been to a professional drag race, you got a great facility out there. Everybody enjoys going, but everybody's ticket also gets them into the pits, Nitro Alley. And it's there that the real fan experience, I think, happens, not only just watching the cars go 330 miles an hour down the track in 1,000 feet, but also getting up close to watching all of the crews do their thing between rounds of racing. And it's an experience unlike any other.
You're right. It's, our sport is unique in the fact that every ticket is a pit pass literally into the locker rooms of the teams. What you see on track for that short amount of time, 3.5, 4 seconds for Top Fuel and Funny Car, is just a small fraction of what's really going on at the track. When you see these teams sprinting down the return road to retrieve the race car, they literally start to dismantle the engine as it's being towed back to the pit. They don't wait till it gets back to the race car hauler and they back it in to start servicing the car. So what they're able to do in a matter of 60, 65 minutes, sometimes even shorter than that, they can literally rebuild the entire engine from the bare block all the way to starting it up and fueling it up and sending it back down the racetrack again. So to watch these teams and how synchronized the crew members have to be with each other and the timing of different things and aspects of rebuilding the engine, to watch that live in person is something that you would never imagine that they could do. I mean, imagine taking the engine out of your Chevy pickup truck and taking it apart and putting it back. It would take you weeks. And these guys do it in less than an hour. So to watch that is pretty spectacular.
And it's like an orchestra. All of them have to play together at the right time to do the right thing. And then you sit there watching them, fascinated with what they're doing, and then they fire it off. And you hear it, and then you feel the sound.
And then you smell it, and the tears come to your eyes.
The eyes start watering, and it's just that's the experience that you go home and remember.
NHRA is the only sport that sprays hand sanitizer every time they light up a nitro car and just kind of fogs the whole crowd and stuff. But one of the things I've remembered, because I've been going out there since the late 80s when you guys first started, Houston Raceway Park is the record-setting track NHRA always looks to come to. So rolling into late October, air should be good. Hopefully everything comes together, and here at the end of the season, they'll pop off quite a few records in multiple brackets.
You're right, and I'll just make a prediction with you guys, and first one to really say this out there publicly, but I would not be surprised if Houston is the last event on the tour this year. I was recently in Vegas at another event this past week. And, the fact is that there's really not a lot of people in Vegas right now. And so unless some restrictions are eased, I wouldn't be surprised to say that Houston would be the final race of the 2020 season and serve as the finals in determining the championships. And so for us, that is really puts us in a unique position, regardless of whether Vegas happens or not. I think you're going to, what happens in Houston, the 24th and 25th, will certainly result in, determine who's going to be the champion and be the world champion for 2020.
Well, speaking of that, Seth, I think that it would we would not really do ourselves any disservice here if we didn't talk to you about Erica Enders, our pro stock driver, and so we're going to so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's focus in on her for just a second. Hang with us.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Advance Auto Parts and CarQuest present the Boobs Rock Powder Puff Race. Saturday night, October 17th at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 5. The green flag waves at 6. Wear a mask. Social distancing and sanitizer rules. Enjoy $1 hot dogs and $1 beer. $5 discount ticket info online at NASCARHouston.com. Saturday night, October 17th. Gates at 5. Racing at 6. Houston Motorsports Park. All car classes, including the Boobs Rock Powder Puff Race, supporting breast cancer awareness. It's the last race of the season. Boobs Rock. Don't miss it. Talking to Seth Angel at Houston Raceway Park. That's the drag strip out in Baytown. And, there's something for a future race, Seth, a Boobs Rock powder puff thing. But just an idea. Gina Child-Knowles came up with that, and I thought it was a brilliant idea out at the Circle Track up on the north side of town. But anyway, hey, thanks again for joining us today. Again, it's Seth Angel. He's the proprietor out there at Houston Raceway Park out in Baytown. So we've got a local hometown hero here, and her name is Erica Enders, and you and I both know her and her family and Stan Holt and the whole drag racing bunch here in town. And, there's a huge sportsman class, and let's face it, Erica really started over there in Baytown with her junior dragster stuff, and look at her now. What, three-time
pro stock world champion.
Yeah, and the truth is that when I was a kid and I was racing junior dragsters alongside her, I can tell you that we never really enjoyed racing her because she beat us, and so but it was fun watching her grow up and through the ranks and really earn her spot in the sport. And she will certainly her performance with her world championships, and then she's right in line to win another championship this year. She's only 2 points back behind Jason Line with 2, possibly 3 races left. So every round matters. And so don't be surprised if you see her go rounds on Sunday at both Texas Motorplex here next weekend, and certainly in Houston. Elite Motorsports, which is her team, is really at the top of their game. And so that's why she's in that driver's seat with that team, is because she's the top of her game as well.
Yeah, she definitely is. Let's change gears here for just a second. In running a track like yours, how in touch are you with other tracks? Just out of curiosity, I mean, you've got to know what everybody else is doing, and I'm sure that you guys amongst yourselves, share information and trade any kind of information that you may have regarding things that work for one track, might not work at another, that sort of stuff. How does that work for you?
That's a great question, Don. And the simple fact is that we do communicate quite often with our other track operators and track partners. We're not in competition with each other. We are working with each other, and things that may work at another venue may not work at our venue, and vice versa. But now more than ever, especially during this pandemic, I've been in constant communication with the other tracks. I talked to Chris Blair at St. Louis over the last couple of weeks, and certainly his race this past weekend, just finding out what the feel like, and what the flow was like, and what the crowd was like, and just to try to understand better how we can put ourselves in a position come the 24th and 25th to let our fans, create that experience that they deserve, that they pay for when they buy those tickets. And so it's important that we communicate. We talk now a lot more than we have maybe in the past because of the environment and the world that we're living in with the pandemic. Because, the truth is, we move past 20 and we look into 21. A lot of the challenges that we face today, we're going to be faced with them come next spring. And so, it's important that we communicate and that we bounce things off of each other because at the end of the day, we're on the same team and we're working together for the same goal. And
speaking of that, I know that NHRA just released their 22-race schedule for the 2021 season, and they've got Houston Raceway Park on the schedule for the Mopar Express Lane NHRA Nationals on May the 21st through the 23rd of next year. Do you think that that's going to happen?
100% it's going to happen. There were some fans that were not thrilled with that date and that option, but here's the facts of the matter. NHRA, when planning the 21 schedule, gave us really a couple options. The first option was to run in March, which I was not enthusiastic about for a lot of reasons. One, I felt like it was too soon. I think that we'll still be in an environment where the pandemic is still kind of impacting outdoor events and limiting capacities. And so I didn't want to put ourselves in a position where we were still faced with that. And the other option was to run in October, which, it's great, but it's not great when you have another facility less than 200 miles away running back-to-back weekends. It's not ideal for them. And the Texas Motorplex is not ideal for us. And so I really worked with the NHRA in trying to find a weekend that we felt would fit for the tour, because it's important on how they position each event and where the teams travel to and how to minimize long hauls across the country. And so, we settled with the May 21st, 22nd, 23rd weekend. Look, I want to be racing. The Spring Nationals belong in April. They belong in that third or fourth weekend in April, as they've always been. I think eventually we'll get back to that weekend. But given the circumstances, we felt like the May 21, May 22, May 23rd date was best suited for us, for our fans, for the 21 season.
And it's going to be a new challenge for the tuners to come to Houston, because typically in the April-March time frame, the weather was always a little bit cooler. So now the challenge is going to have to deal with a little bit more heat. So it's going to take a little bit more skill and experience to get down the track.
Yeah. Look, and I think we've already had conversations about where the schedule of that weekend, and if we can do some things on Friday night, and then obviously go maybe later on Saturday and try to get away from some of that heat. We realize it's not going to be, 60 degrees in conditions. But the fact of the matter is, we're confident that we'll have a great race weekend.
Oh, yeah.
But these guys are experts. They'll figure their track out. They'll figure the conditions out. Technology's on their side, and they'll be able to handle it.
Well, Seth, we're really looking forward to the race coming up here in a couple of weeks, and I know that you are too, and I know that you got your hands full between now and then getting everything ready for the crowds that are going to be out there. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be giving away some tickets to the race, and that's going to start next weekend. So we look forward to coming out there and doing our show from there once again, and we sure appreciate your time that you took today out of your busy schedule to be with us. So thanks so much, man.
As always, Ron, I'm going to get back to watching last year's race behind me and keeping my energy up.
We've been watching it while you're talking.
Yeah, exactly. So, Seth, thanks again, man. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. All right, take care. All right, Seth Angel, he is the proprietor out there at Houston Raceway Park. We've got more of the In Wheel Time Car Show coming your way right after this quick break.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
I don't know why, but for some reason, when I hear that song, this song, it reminds me of Ed Big Daddy Roth. Jeff's wearing the Rat
Big Daddy?
Yeah, the Big Daddy Roth, Ed Roth shirt today. But it kind of takes the Monsters, the 60s stuff, Hot Rods.
What was the other spy show with Steele, the girl Steele? What was it? Man, oh no, well not Man from Uncle, but one of the Remington Steele. No, anyhow, never mind. I'll go back to whatever I was doing before. I brought that up.
There is that. You know, it's time actually for the car clinic. Are you ready to do the car clinic?
Yep. And
this is taking you out of your norm here.
Kind of a continuation of a little bit of last week. You know, it's intermittent intrigue. You know, remember last week we talked about the inventor of the windshield wipers had gotten it patented back in the 1800s, and then wipers really didn't become a thing in the cars until later in the 30s and 40s, so she never benefited from her patent. Well, something else happened, and that was after wipers really became more implemented on automobiles in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they weren't offered with a lot of settings. It was either on or off, and the only intermittent you got, and we talked about it last week.
Is when you floored the accelerator pedal.
and the vacuum sped them up or slowed them down. Well, in 1963, a man named Robert Kearns had an eye injury, and it got him to thinking about how can I better the view out of the inside of my car, because his eye injury really affected him when the windshield was wet. So, and he...
What?
Yeah, no, it was. It was. And he realized that your eyelid didn't blink at the same speed all the time, and it kind of changed just his needs. So he was trying to figure out, how can we put this on the windshield of a car? So through as a scientist, he observed this with his eyeball, and he designed a system of intermittent wipers on a vehicle. And he was so excited about it, he brought it to Ford after he had applied for his patents and showed it to Ford. He built a system, put it on his 1962 Ford Galaxy, and drove it over to Ford headquarters. And the Ford engineers were so impressed, they sent him out of the room so they could prove that he wasn't doing it with like a button in his pocket or
Seriously?
something. Well, I think they might have had a little bit of nefarious reasons to send him out of the room.
Nefarious reasons.
So they sent him out of the room so they could do a better job of inspecting this and making sure he wasn't doing something to cause the intermittent. And they were quite impressed with the system, and what ended up happening is in 1969, Ford released as a factory option was intermittent wipers on the 1969 Ford Galaxy without help from Robert Kearns.
Is that Mr. Kearns?
That's Mr. Kearns right there.
Handsome-looking man.
But it wasn't until 1976 that Robert Kearns actually took apart the Ford system on their vehicle to determine that it was his patented windshield wiper system.
Busted.
And busted them. So he ended up taking a patent lawsuit against Ford, against Chrysler, against General Motors, against a whole bunch of manufacturers who had integrated his design into their systems. into their wiper systems. And after many long years of fighting Ford and Chrysler and 25 other car manufacturers, in 1995, Mr. Kearns was ultimately awarded $30 million.
Was he still alive?
From Chrysler. Yeah, he was still alive. At that point, his original lawsuit was for $325 million, but the appeals court dropped it down to $30 million.
Darn.
And he had fired all of his legal advisors and kind of goofed up on some of the paperwork, so he couldn't get the lawsuit against all the other.
Well, darn,
money
$30 million.
But Mr. Kearns passed away February 9th of 2005 at the age of 77. So he never really fully recognized. He was never fully recognized as the creator of the intermittent wipers. But in 2008, there was a movie called Flash of Genius, starring Greg Kinnear, that highlighted the story of Robert Kearns and his legal battle over intermittent wipers.
What was it called again?
Flash of Genius.
Flash of Genius. Okay.
So it's funny that in the wiper realm of cars, both people who patented windshield wipers and then the guy who patented intermittent wipers never realized the revenue stream that was available to them because the patents had expired.
They got screwed.
They absolutely got and tattooed.
Blued, screwed, and tattooed.
Okay, so if you're gonna patent something, don't go show it to somebody who wants to steal it from you.
Not until you for sure got all the paperwork.
And when they send you out of the room, wonder why.
Just remember why your parents sent you out of the room. There's something about something. Whoa. Somebody's fixing to get screwed.
God. All right. Well, thank you.
Oh.
God,
I thought that was a great story, though.
It is a great story. Absolutely. All right. We've got this week's Automotive News Headlines coming up next.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
And if you think that you're going crazy and you thought, wait a minute, didn't I just hear that?
And this music.
No, you did not hear that. It's all your fault.
Deja vu.
All over again. Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program. Nobody said anybody was perfect here. Your Prevagen is working. Lucky you. Okay, time now for some of the stories making automotive news headlines this week. California's plan to end sales of gasoline-burning vehicles in 2035 could have a ripple effect nationwide if history is any guide. Golden State's unique ability to set its emission standards has actually been shaping the U.S. auto industry for 5 decades, but the initial effects will be felt inside the state, the nation's biggest auto market, and will start well before its 15-year deadline that all new vehicles be zero emission. Tesla is already climbing the sales charts in California, and its electric vehicles are threatening bestsellers such as the Honda Civic and the Toyota Camry. As a matter of fact, these are California sales numbers now. You ready? So top-selling nameplates in 2019, number 5, Toyota RAV4, number 4, Honda Accord, number 3, Tesla Model 3.
Oh, wow.
Number 2, Toyota Camry, and number 1, Honda Civic. Now, EV sellers, get this. The number 1 EV seller is the Tesla Model 3 at 59,514. Its closest competitor, the Chevrolet Bolt, 8,239.
Oh, my gosh. Talking about dominate the market.
Tesla Model X, 7,222. Tesla Model S, 5,885.
Oh, I thought there was way more S's than that.
I thought so too. I think that they were at the beginning, but apparently the Model 3 is the bomb, and I think it's because of the price.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Nissan Leaf at 4,160.
So the question comes down to, if California goes to pure EV, they can't keep the power on right now. They're running these statewide brownouts. How are they going to power all these people when they hook up their EVs to charge?
I know. Well, something to scratch your head about.
Remember to vote.
Okay, now, here's a story that you can't comment on because we're running out of time for this hour. But I've got to plug this in here. You ready? Virgin Hyperloop.
Don't look at me. You told me not to comment.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying. Virgin. Virgin Airlines. Richard Branson.
Oh, okay.
Virgin Hyperloop has picked West Virginia to host a $500 million certification center and test track for billionaire Richard Branson's super high-speed travel system.
West Virginia.
Stand by. The center will be the first U.S. regulatory proving ground for a Hyperloop system designed to whisk floating pods packed with passengers and cargo.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
Through vacuum tubes at 600 miles per hour or faster.
So it's like being at the bank.
Pretty much. That's exactly right. And all I can think of is George Jetson in this. Branson announced the decision at a press conference Thursday, joined virtually by U.S. Transportation Department Secretary Elaine Chao, in a Hyperloop system which uses magnetic levitation to allow near-silent travel. A trip between New York and Washington would take just 30 minutes. That would be twice as fast as a commercial jet flight and 4 times faster than a high-speed train. Construction is slated to begin in 2022 on the site of a former coal mine. Federal regulators will use the center and accompanying 6-mile test track to establish regulatory and safety standards, while Virgin will test its product and infrastructure.
This thing gonna feel like leaving in a top fuel dragster.
This thing is going to happen whether you like it or not. And
you have to take your shoes off to get on.
Yeah, you have to take your shoes off to get on. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that. But at any rate, so I thought that was a pretty George Jetson. Here we are.
Here we are.
All right. We've got more of the In Wheel Time show coming up right after this. Hey, thanks for checking us out. Don Armstrong saying be sure and join us live every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Time on YouTube, Facebook, and InWheelTime.com. Our podcasts are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. We'll see you next time.